So you're prepping for the Azure AZ-104 exam, and let's be honest, it can feel like a beast. Well, today we're going to cut right through all that noise. We are building a super clear, straightforward roadmap that focuses only on the core concepts you absolutely have to know. Let's dive in.
So what does it really take to pass this thing? The AZ-104 isn't about memorizing a bunch of random facts. Nope, it's built to test your real-world, hands-on, practical skills. It's definitely tough, for sure, but it is not impossible. And trust me, by the end of this, you are going to have a solid strategy to absolutely conquer it.
And that whole strategy, it begins right here, with the absolute fundamentals. I mean, before you can build anything cool in Azure, you have to understand the blueprint. You get this foundation right, and I promise you, everything else just clicks into place.
Okay, so right at the very top of everything is your Azure tenant. You gotta think of this as the concrete foundation of your entire building. It's your dedicated little corner of Azure Active Directory that represents your whole organization. Everything starts here.
Now, inside that tenant, you've got your subscriptions, and these are way more than just folders for your stuff. They are a critical boundary for billing. You might set one up for your production environment and a totally separate one for development. It's the perfect way to keep your environments and your costs neatly organized.
And finally, tucked inside each of those subscriptions, you have resource groups. The best way to think of these? A logical folder. Seriously, it's just a container that holds all the related things for one application. And this is key because it means you can manage, deploy, and, get this, delete everything for that app in one single clean operation. So handy.
Okay, so our blueprint is established. Now for the fun part. Let's start laying down the actual building blocks. We're going to get into the core components that will make up pretty much all of your Azure infrastructure.
Your first, and honestly most fundamental component, is the virtual network, or what we all call a VNet. This is your very own private, isolated slice of the Azure cloud. Think of it like buying a plot of land, where you're going to build everything, and it's completely walled off from everybody else's plot.
And let's just talk about scale for a second. A really common VNet address space, a /16, gives you that number. Over 65,000 available IP addresses. That is a massive amount of room to build and scale whatever you can dream up, all inside one private network.
Next up, we have the workhorse of the cloud, the virtual machine. Now, creating one seems pretty straightforward, right? But the exam, it's going to test you on the little details. Knowing exactly which size to pick for a certain job, or how to properly connect it to a specific subnet in your VNet, that's the stuff that makes all the difference.
Okay, pay attention, because here is a classic exam trip-up. When we talk about logging in, Windows Server VMs default to the good old username and password. But for Linux, the standard and way more secure method is using an SSH public key. The exam loves to test this little difference, so please lock it in.
All right, let's talk storage. You need to know that not all blobs are created equal. Just think of it like this. Block blobs are for your standard blocks of data, things like images or documents. Append blobs are made for appending data without messing with what's already there, which makes them perfect for log files. And then you have page blobs. They're special. They're what Azure uses behind the scenes to make the virtual hard disks for your VMs.
So, we've built our infrastructure. Our house is standing. But a house without locks is, well, it's just asking for trouble, right? Now we have to secure it. This whole next section is about governance and security, the absolute essential rules of the road for your Azure world.
Think about it. Your VMs are up and running inside your private VNet. That's great. But how do you control exactly what traffic can get to them? How do you open up, say, port 80 for your web server but block absolutely everything else?
The answer to that question is a network security group, or NSG. The best way to think about it is as a bouncer for your VMs and subnets. It's basically a list of rules that says exactly what traffic to allow or deny based on things like IP address, port, and protocol.
And that's exactly what it is. An NSG is your fundamental first line of defense. Before traffic can even get a chance to knock on your VM store, the NSG is right there deciding if it's even allowed on the property. It's a simple idea, but it's absolutely critical for your security.
Okay, so if NSGs are the bouncers for network traffic, think of Azure Policy as the rulebook for the entire building. It doesn't care about ports and protocols, it cares about actions. For instance, you could create a policy that flat out prevents anyone from deploying those massive, super expensive VMs, which enforces your rules and controls your costs before they even become a problem.
All right, we've covered the individual pieces: the foundation, networking, security, policy, the whole shebang. Now it's time for the final challenge, putting it all together. The case studies are where the exam really tests if you can apply all this knowledge to a messy, real-world situation.
Let's be real. Case studies can feel like a total data dump. They just throw everything at you. The current setup, business goals, technical needs. It's a lot. The trick is to not get overwhelmed. Your job is to act like a detective, sifting through all those details to find the clues and connect the dots. But there's a proven strategy, a method to the madness. First, just read the entire case study once to get the big picture. Don't worry about the details yet. Then, go back and start pulling out the key business and technical requirements and look for any conflicts. As you answer each question, always go back to the text to justify your choice. And here's the absolute killer tip, the most important part. Once you finish a case study, you cannot go back, so you have to treat that review screen as your final check.
And there you have it, from the foundational blueprint to the core components, the security rules, and even a strategy for the toughest questions on the exam. You officially have the roadmap. So the only real question left is, what are you going to build with it?